Hello, Night Nation. I'm Trey Strelko. He's Adam Eaton. Welcome into Sons of UCF Live. Even though it's a bye week, Adam, it has felt like a very busy week.
It has, Trey. There's a lot going on. Basketball is tipped off, kind of. Do we count this as tip off? I don't really know. A lot of news and notes. We got some stuff for the show tonight. We got recruiting on deck. We have Ben Hazel back for the first time in a long time, Trace, which is a lot of fun. Andrew Cherico will join us here in just a few minutes. It should be a rousing night here on Sons of UCF Live.
Now, to remind you, you may have forgotten, I've got some PTO coming up next week. I'll be out of town before I go to Waco to watch UCF and Baylor. And I was thinking, one of your favorite segments, one of the things you like the most is when I do jokes right before a holiday. And I won't be here next Thursday. So I'm celebrating Halloween.
I'm glad. Yeah, no, I'm glad we got this
tonight. I mean, I know it's one of your favorite things. So let's begin with knock, knock.
Who is there?
Orange.
Orange who?
Aren't you glad it's Halloween?
I'm a big Halloween guy.
Not?
Yeah.
Well,
once you get to a certain age,
there are several more jokes throughout this show.
Well, I can't wait to hear those too.
Let's before we talk about the Knights and get into recruiting talk, let's talk about a better bounce house. In addition to that, season ticket prices are going up for some. They announced some improvements over the next couple of years. New Roth Tower, new video board, sound system. You can walk around the stadium. Maybe the lower level fences are gone. What stood out to you? What are you most looking forward to from the changes that have been announced?
I think the video boards could be interesting depending on how they work that out and what that looks like. I know it's kind of vague, right? I think they're just trying to putting out, they have concepts of a plan. Maybe that's the way to phrase that, right?
I've heard that somewhere before.
Yeah, you have. So kind of vague maybe in terms of what that looks like, but you saw something maybe on that south end zone. Something to do with a video board or a scoreboard. I think that could be cool. Obviously on the north side, looking at the scoreboard there. I know a lot of people that chain link fence has been a thorn in their side. So I think the chain link fence will also be interesting. Again, I'm curious to see once we get more details. You saw cabana upgrades, you saw field cabana upgrades, you saw enhancements. I don't know what all that means yet. So once I get more details on that, I can tell you. But I think the video boards is a really cool idea.
You are not one to walk around the entire stadium, are you? You stay up in the cabanas at halftime?
Yeah, typically. I mean, unless I need to, hit a restroom or get a beverage refill. Yeah, I'm not one to peruse the entire stadium for sure, but I can see how that could be a benefit. I mean, there's some open air baseball parks where you can, walk the concourse and see the field everywhere you go. And I think that could be a really cool conceptual idea if UCF can pull that off.
Of course, when you send out an announcement like this, it helps if you win the game right before you send out the announcement. So big sigh of relief on the part of UCF athletics that the Knights went into their bye week defeating West Virginia 45-13. What's your big takeaway? You talked about it with Brian on Sons Today, and you've been reliving that game throughout the week.
Yeah, it was a game that I think many folks thought UCF could win, and they went in and took care of business. This wasn't a game where it was, particularly close. I think the first half was more uncomfortable than I would have liked to have seen, but second half, I think you saw, UCF take off. Impressed by a couple of things. One, Taven Jackson, I think perhaps his best game as quarterback for the Knights. Two, the running game when it's on. Jaden Nixon, Miles Montgomery, such a good 1-2 punch. And three, we talk a lot about offense, Trace, but this defense continues to find ways to stymie teams. This time you get a turnover and a scoop and score for Kelly Lawson. So I think those are the big three takeaways is, Taven Jackson looked comfortable, even though I think we all assume he's playing still a little bit banged up. Running backs were great. And once again, an Alex Grinch defense holds the team under 20. You got to tip your cap to what they're doing on that side of the ball.
A win in October is our one big thing tonight.
One big thing.
And instead of a pre-recorded segment, we get Andrew Cherico live.
That's the best way.
UCF Live. AC, welcome in.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. It was a much-needed first conference win of the season for the UCF Knights in the blowout against West Virginia, 45-13. Dominant all-around win where the team dominated on three phases: offense, defense, and special teams. A game where Taven Jackson took back the helm at quarterback and potentially changed the tide for the team's momentum for the rest of the season. Let's hear from Coach Frost.
This team believes, and they're going to keep fighting regardless of one game or another. And I've told you guys that the last couple of weeks. This team's starting to come together. The vibe in the building and the locker room is really good. They believe. They needed a win to really boost that belief, but I think they believe they're going to have a chance every time we go out there. And then we just got to keep getting the execution harder and harder so we can be a little bit better every week, and we'll keep taking swings.
Knights now on a bye week, preparing and growing off of that win to go on the road to face a 4-3 Baylor, where the Knights are also 4-3 and hopefully reach bowl eligibility just 2 games away. But for now, I'm Andrew Cherico for the Sons of UCF.
Don't go anywhere. Don't sign off.
what?
I know you're so used to that.
Wait, what?
I'm used to it.
Stick around. Don't go anywhere just yet. You heard Adam off the top talking about Taven Jackson really solidifying the job. Of course, Cam Fancher, we learned broken ribs following that Cincinnati game, was not announced in the post game, but we learned about it later on in the week. As Adam said, this is really Taven's job, isn't it?
Yeah, Taven no doubt came in against West Virginia, and he let the ball rip. That's a different dynamic than we've seen the past few games for UCF. The offense seemed to have these periods of time where they get complacent, they take the dink and dunks, and they try to ease their way into getting first downs. UCF came out the gate firing. 2 touchdowns on 35-plus deep balls to Chris Damercant in the first quarter of the game. You don't usually see that, not often. And for a team that's coming with UCF off of 3 straight conference losses, that was important to get out in front early and establish dominance for the rest of the game.
And I think it's interesting that first one was kind of a broken play, right? I mean, he kind of scrambled out of the pocket, make something happen there. He had some shorter receivers, kind of, maybe for the first down, but he kind of went for the throw. And he can make all the throws. Like, he's got the arm talent there. What did you make of kind of the game plan for him, right? We know his shoulder's banged up. You didn't see him run a lot in this game, which you've seen him in past. What'd you kind of make of the way that Scott Frost used him in this game against West Virginia?
Yeah, Adam. I think personally they wanted to keep him more in the pocket. Obviously, if behind Taven Jackson was Davi Belfort, and no disrespect to Davi, but you still want an experienced quarterback going into the game, especially trying to earn their first conference win. So they tried to keep him protected in the pocket. And I think it was just a little bit more hesitant to run, knowing that he's coming off of these injuries and he needs to be reliable. You talk about that play to Chris Damercant, the first 4th down of the game where they scored the touchdown. I did a deep dive analysis on that play, and the pocket was pretty much clean for the first part. Owen Spell got a one last effort on the West Virginia rusher. Taven stepped up. Then he kind of pump faked the run. He looked like he was going to go for it for a second, then looked around, faked the throw to Wade and Charles over the middle, and then eventually hit Chris Damercant deep. For Taven, it was about it's cliche, but it was literally about letting Taven Jackson play with confidence and play with that confidence that he showed throughout spring and fall camp, the one that he's shown since he didn't win the starting job, and now proving that why he should be quarterback 1.
Andrew, you wear many hats covering the Magic. Of course, you're a student, part of the Suns team, part of 24/7 and the coverage of the Knights. One of your colleagues, Latavius Murray, the UCF Athletics Hall of Famer, talking with Adam this week about, beating a team like West Virginia. You should beat them, right?
Absolutely. This game was a much-needed win. Like I mentioned, UCF is now just 2 games off of bowl game eligibility. And you look at the schedule, there's some tough opponents. Hopefully the space game is one of the guaranteed ones that UCF gets. This would be a terrible year for it to end the streak. But it was a much-needed win. It was a depleted West Virginia team, Trace. They were down to the 3rd and 4th string quarterbacks. One quarterback, every play you knew it was going to be a run. It was only a matter of time to get the stop. And we spoke with Nick Williams in the postgame. He was with Rich Rod, and Rich Rod was mad. He was as upset as can be, saying UCF didn't have to play the 3rd and 4th quarterback, and they felt like they were knocked out the game early. What was really surprising was UCF didn't have that big of a lead going into the half, more due to the chances that Coach Frost took trying to put them away early, going for the 4th down in enemy territory, not converting. That kind of set them back. But in the 3rd quarter, they took advantage and took complete control of the game. And that's the kind of win UCF needed to get the team back on track.
Well, let's hear from Latavius Murray now.
Because, it's hard to win. It's hard to win. And I think a lot of times, sometimes the really bad teams can go in there or teams that are on the fence can go in a game like that and come out on the losing side of it. And so you can't apologize for a win because it's hard to win. And I say, I don't say anything to him. I say, to hell with you. We got to win and let's keep it going. You know what I mean? So especially when you're in that building and there's on the other side of that, they want to win just as bad every day of the week, 5 days, whatever. They're preparing not to lose. Right. So when you have 2 people that are going into a situation like I don't want to lose. You know what I mean? Like that's exactly what. So in my mind, you can't apologize for that.
Adam, a good laugh line there from Latavius Murray.
Yeah, I mean, listen, obviously West Virginia clearly, has some things they're still working on their side, right? And they're going through a tough challenge as well. And Latavius says something all the time that I think is just fantastic, which is don't apologize when you win, because it's not easy to do that. And if we had lost this game, like what would have happened to UCF? So I think you applaud the team. They take care of business. To Andrew's point, they did so pretty handily, especially in the second half there. And now it's about, can you take the momentum from this game and can you build on this? Can you bottle this momentum up? Can you get healthy this weekend? Can you get out there again at Baylor and make some noise and try to steal a game here on the road, which UCF has struggled on the road in the Big 12. So can you bottle this momentum? Can you use that going forward? Can Taven Jackson get healthy? Can this offense really continue to move forward? I think that's what the focus is. But tip your cap to the Knights for a nice win, nice homecoming celebration, but bottle it up and move on to the next one.
Of course, with a bye week, Knights coaches are out on the recruiting trail. Can they build some momentum in recruiting? Let's talk about this more with Brian Doan, 247sports.com's national analyst. He joins us now on Suns Live. Welcome in, Brian.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me, guys. How are you guys?
Doing well. Latest 24/7 rankings have UCF 79th. There are no foam fingers for that. How are the Knights looking at this point?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't get too caught up in that stuff right now. They have 13 commits. I think obviously it's probably going to hit the portal a little bit again this offseason. And, it's funny. I know somebody pretty well that played on a staff that played UCF recently. And I told him I was coming on here and I said, give me the scouting report. And he said, UCF's going to be much different, next year when Scott Frost has a chance. He said, there's a lot of pieces in place. He's a big Scott Frost fan. The guy used to coach at UCF with O'Leary. But he said Scott Frost needs to get some speed. Once he gets some more speed at the skill positions, it makes sense. And then, I'm coming on doing some leg work for this, and I pop on that Arthur Lewis tape of the running back out of Florida, and he's he's not the biggest, but he's a 4.52 kid in the 40. His 10-yard burst it's under 1.7, which is ridiculous. And he's just so explosive. And I'm sitting and I'm like, yeah, that's kind of that's what they're talking about. Guys like that who can be big play guys. And so I think, you guys are talking about bye week and getting out on the road. Look, there's still going to be some movement and some chances with some 26 kids when we have some more coaching changes and everything. But the way this stuff works now is put the groundwork in for the 27 class. And I think that's where you're really looking to make impact. I think this season you really figure out what you need from a program when the portal opens in January, and you attack it there and you try to upgrade some of the skill positions. A lot of work to be done there, but obviously whether it's, go back to O'Leary or Frost or Heupel, Frost again, it can get done there. And, now they can do it with the Big 12 conference behind them. And so I think if I'm a UCF fan, I'm pretty jazzed. One thing I'd like to see is recruit a little bit more in-state, right? I mean, there's enough talent there. And I think that's how guys did in the past, and kind of pick around out of state, but there's too much talent in Florida.
Yeah, Brian, that's actually my question for you. According to 24/7 right now, 13 commits for UCF, 7 out of the state of Florida, 6 in the state of Florida. What do you make of that philosophy so far? And should we read anything into it right now this early, not having as many Florida kids as maybe a lot of folks would hope they would have at this point?
I don't read too much into it because of, look, he's been there almost a year and people are like, well, you've had plenty of time, but this recruiting stuff gets done so early now, and you have to figure out what you had in your program, worry about the portal, worry about the spring portal, to where the 27 class should really be the first chance where you really dive into it. And like I said, I spoke to 3 different coaches who were at UCF at different times just to get their take on it. And their philosophy was, listen, recruit Florida like crazy because, there's so many kids. I had one coach tell me that he would just spend his spring in Palm Beach County, and there were plenty of players there. But, one thing I kept hearing was go to Georgia for offensive linemen, right? And so they have an offensive lineman committed from Georgia. And quarterback recruiting, you go where you can find them. And they got one from, I'm based in New Jersey. They got one from Central PA in Dante Carr. And so you can pick and choose, right? In this climate with NIL, to where you can basically, and rev share, where you can basically put in contracts with players that their families can go, you're going to pay for them to get to campus and to go on road trips. So it allows you to be a bit more national in your recruiting, but it's also, there's just so much talent in Florida. And like I said, I watched one of their kids play a couple of weeks ago, Amon Williams, the offensive lineman in Massachusetts. I was at their game, and look, I know from doing this for a while that it's not like Florida is a bastion for offensive line talent. So you go where you can find it. And then you look at Frost had known the kid that they got from up in Connecticut, Alassane Idrisu, who's a normal basketball player, spent some time in Spain, then was in California. Now he's in Connecticut. Unfortunately, he tore his patella tendon, so he's out for the year. But he's a big body, he's every bit of 6'6", 240. So if those are the guys you're taking from out of state and you believe in them, that's great. I just know that if you're looking for a slot receiver, you could probably find one of those guys in Florida somewhere.
Yeah. Great to see you, Brian. Really quickly, with Gus Malzahn previously at the helm for UCF recruiting, it was blue chip prospect, 4-star. And with Scott Frost taking over, you've kind of seen that dip more down to 3-star. But you go back to Scott Frost, the golden era with UCF, he wasn't bringing the best recruits either. He was bringing in guys who were overlooked, guys who may have been under the radar, and kind of get them and develop them into top-tier talent. Do you think Scott Frost going towards back to the blue chip recruiting as a primary focus, or do you think he might stick around that 3-star range for the next couple of years?
Yeah, I think that's a really subjective question and approach from this standpoint. And I've had many of these discussions with people because it's what makes this so hard, right? So you take a 5-star quarterback. Let's take Drew Allar at Penn State, who everybody knows out for the season, unfortunately. He was a 5-star quarterback who, if you look at his body of work, did not live up to the 5-star potential. Okay. Is that because he wasn't developed? Or is that because he just wasn't that good? Right. And I bring it up with whether it's Gus Malzahn or Scott Frost, or go back to the O'Leary days. You still have to develop these kids because you're getting them at 18 years old, 19, 17, whatever. And so if you're Scott Frost, and, there's not a big difference between a kid who's a 88 or an 89 on our rankings and a 90. It just means maybe he doesn't have one trait, or we're trying to let a trait develop. But if you can run and you have those traits, it's now up to the coach to develop them. And I've always said this, and I love the rankings. I do. I think they're great barometers for things, or a compass for things. But it's so subjective, and it comes down to, can you develop them? And I don't want a coach that's going to look at the rankings and say, well, that's who I'm going after. Do your own evals. Scott Frost knows what worked for him. He knows what worked for him at UCF. He knows what did not work for him at Nebraska. And so it comes down to, and another thing is okay, maybe you take a kid like the Kaj Baker kid, right? The commit out of Pembroke Pines. He's 5'7"-ish, 5'8". You watch his tape and he's small. You can see it. So what's his chance of being a 4-star? Well, according to us, if you're a 4-star, that means you're an NFL talent, an NFL player. So now let's go look. How many 5'7", if he's a receiver, if he's whatever he's going to be, right? Running back, receiver, kind of a hybrid kind of guy, whatever. Well, how many of those kids are in the NFL? How many 5'7" guys are in the NFL? Well, not a lot, right? And so that he could still be a great college player. And I think sometimes people, we've all seen really good high school players, and you're like, man, that kid's unbelievable. what do you mean that his best offer is like a mid-level D3? And that's no disrespect to D3s. I got kids that play D3 sports, right? And so, but it's like you can be a great college player and not be an NFL player. And so I think you got to be really careful with that. So Scott Frost has to go, and the staff has to go find guys that fit his system and fit what they want to do at UCF. And one thing I know, because I watch probably more Big 12 football than anybody in New Jersey, right? Because I just know some coaches and I know players and and it's exciting. Listen, man, if you don't have speed at the skill positions, you are in desperate trouble. And you can get, can you get away with a 5'7" dude in the Big 10 playing against Michigan and Ohio State? I don't know, man. But you can in the Big 12. And that's not a disrespect. That's just change differences in conferences. Everything has their nuances. And so, yeah, I mean, the rankings are great, but give me a player who's going to develop, who has talent and who fits the system. I'll take that.
So really quick follow-up. So
Yeah.
fans, you think, are over-worrying about not getting these 4-star prospects just because they were so used to them with Gus, when in reality, it may not work with Coach Frost?
Yeah, I mean, I don't worry about that. I worry about, can you develop them? I mean, how many boys do you have on their roster? And they were in the playoff last year, right? Look at what USF is doing this year. And I know, I get it. That's group of 6. We're talking Power 4, right? But I mean, if you're good, you're good. And like I said, it's always a compass kind of deal. A really good friend of mine who kind of got me into this from newspapers, moving on to this side of things. It was like, we talk about rankings. He goes, use rankings as a compass. Some are going to be right, some are going to be wrong, but it's going to get you in the right direction. And so, right now, people want to see what you can do at UCF. It is a what have you done for me lately world. So you give it a little bit of time. There's kids that are 4 stars where, that the talent level is there, right? You look at it, you say, boy, that kid is talented, but there's some off the field stuff that could just make it so he's never going to work out in college, or the chance of him working out in college isn't great. So, I don't stress about that stuff until you see it on the field and you're like, boy, more talent needs to be there. And I think it's way too early for that kind of stuff. I mean, you want to talk 4 stars and development and using them the right way. Look what's going on in Florida. Look at their recruiting classes and look at what the product is on the field. And so there's more to it than just recruiting a 4-star kid. If you're a 4-star quarterback, maybe you have a cannon of an arm, but that may not work with what they want to do offensively. I mean, go look at the Kansas kid, right? He's been good for, he struggled last year, but he's been good, but he's good because they know how to mix his legs and his arm. That's not going to get you as a 4-star kid, because in the NFL, I don't care how fast, how much you run. If you can't just sit in the pocket and rip it, you're not going to have success. And so when you're talking about rankings with stuff, you got to be careful with that sometimes.
Let me ask each of you, Andrew, Brian, quarterback Kane Archer, do you think he ends up a Knight? Andrew, you first.
I think the Knights are currently have recruited 3 major quarterbacks with their most recent offer of Rocco Marriott. They have Kane Archer, Dante Carr, Rocco on the horizon. They're really strongly pursuing Rocco. I think they end up going with all 3. I think if Rocco decides, I think Kane does stay and give it a shot. The only reason why I do think, I will add on to that, they're pursuing Rocco is because if something changes up in Arkansas where Kane is, then that may shift his recruiting aspect. And if he decides to flip, so the UCF, whether is either going to have 3 quarterbacks or 2, just in case they have a backup plan.
Brian, what about you?
Yeah, look, I think you wind up with 2. I think kids this day, you got to protect yourself in the portal. With the portal, kids don't want to sit behind kids for any amount of time. So I think the days of having 5 quarterbacks I guess, on scholarship, whatever we consider that. I think that's going to be really difficult. I think they have a really good chance with Kane Archer from everything I'm told. We'll see what happens there. I don't think they'll go with 3. I don't. I've been doing this a while, and I don't remember any classes that had 3 quarterbacks in it, because somebody's going to look and be like, what am I doing? I'm not even going to get reps in the spring. Forget about trying to compete for the job. And so, and I don't think a staff would do it, because it's such a transient position in this portal age, because it's not like running back where 2, 3, 4 can play in a game. I mean, you get 1, and that's the dude who gets 90% of the reps in practice. And so, yeah, but I do think, I did speak with somebody about Kane Archer. Was today, yesterday, Wednesday, and they thought UCF had a really good chance for him. But I do think, like, if you look at Dante Carr, he's more of a pocket kid who just sits there and slings it, and just kind of, I don't think he does anything. You don't look at it and see a bunch of elite traits, but you look at it and see a bunch of good to above average traits, and I think that's important.
Brian, last word from you. If you're a Knight fan, don't panic about 79th in those recruiting rankings.
Oh, no. I mean, listen, they're 79th because they have 13 commits. It's not because they have, a class of 26 and all these kids stink. I mean, it's built, the rankings are built a lot on volume, right? And you can argue with that or debate it or whatever. But listen, this is, first of all, look, you win with high school kids. Go look at who was in the playoffs last year, and a lot of them, the 4 finalists, I think between the 2 of them between the 4 of them had maybe I think it was 5 or 6 starters that were transfers. So you have to win with high school, but I don't panic, because I think in this climate, when you get there, Frost has to see what he has. They'll probably hit the portal significantly this offseason again, when they figure out who needs to leave and who needs to stay. And then that's where you really see the high school stuff kicking in. Now, it's inconsequential to me right now, just because their focus is clearly not on building a big high school class.
Brian Doan, 247sports.com's national analyst. We appreciate you being with us on Sons Live, and hope to talk to you again soon.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you much. All right, Andrew Cherico, we'll put a wrap on that. You feeling a little better about 79? It's still too early, right?
I was never panicking. I think a big part in this system as well is just the new landscape of college football, Trace. In a day where the top schools are recruiting the top 4 and 5-star talent, UCF is working with what they have in the 3-star and trying to maintain that, as well as trying to gear for the transfer portal. I think UCF is going to be very heavy on the transfer portal this upcoming class, and try to eventually transition into going to more of the recruiting. But I think transfers will be the primary focus for Coach Frost and UCF these next coming seasons, to try to keep up with the talent. I think it's important to remember UCF doesn't have the same kind of funding as Texas Tech. So when you have guys who are commits for 2027, 2026, and they're not going to be ready for another year or 2, that's wasted talent on the bench right now that UCF could use on the field. So I think it's very important to keep that dynamic as well.
In addition to your work with the Suns, you're doing a lot of recruiting work with Knights 24/7. Where can folks find you there?
Absolutely. You can find my work on Latavius Murray's Knights 24/7, getting all the latest recruiting scoops, beats, doing interviews with latest UCF offers, latest UCF recruits, and all the above, trying to just, get to know the community, and come find where all of my work can be at Knights247.com.
Now sign out like you normally do.
All right. And thank you all for watching, everybody. I'm Andrew Cherico for the Sons of UCF.
Thank you, Andrew. That's the quietest I've ever heard you during the first 25, 30 minutes of our show. But we can hear more of you in an interview you did with JB Long, the broadcaster who covered the Knights game on TNT last week.
Yeah, you sure can. Check that out on YouTube channel. Really nice of JB to join, and very complimentary of what we've done around here at the Suns and how we use that there as well. And I'm sensing that you told me to throw a clip here, and I don't have a clip.
No. It was a way
good.
to bring it back in. No clip.
Awesome.
It did seem like a good setup for a clip.
Because you said that, and I was like,
yeah, I know.
Make a clip of JB Long, and that's interesting that you did that to me. But no, listen, I thought it was great too, by the way, is I posted the video on YouTube, and JB actually commented. He's actually responding to people who commented on the video.
That's nice.
Some guy had a question about something, and JB responded back to him as well too. So not sure if we get TNT back this year, but certainly they enjoyed their time in the bounce house, and they did a great job overall. So I'm excited to have TNT back at some point in time. I feel like a really good broadcast from that group.
I almost listened to it today, but I haven't had time yet.
Take your time.
I do promise to get to so why did the Scarecrow comedian get booed, Adam?
Why did the Scarecrow comedian get? I feel like I need to phone a friend here. He was tired.
Because all of his jokes were corny. Where's the
I
little
don't understand that.
Scarecrow? Oh, no, it's not.
Do they go in cornfields? Is that the only place a Scarecrow can be?
Yes.
Is that a fact?
It's enough.
I thought they could be anywhere. I thought they could be universal. No,
not for the purposes of corny jokes during Sons of UCF Live. Big 12 football won't include the Knights this weekend, but let's look around the Big 12 with Jeff Allen.
The Big 12 schedule kicks off Saturday with the Sunflower Showdown with Kansas State at Kansas in their rivalry game. You can catch that one at noon on TNT. Speaking of TNT, a dynamite job by them featuring UCF on Big 12 Uncovered last week. Elsewhere, Iowa State welcomes BYU at 3:30 on Fox. Baylor visits Cincinnati, 4 o'clock on ESPN2. Also at 4 o'clock, Texas Tech entertains Oklahoma State on ESPNU. TCU faces off with West Virginia on ESPN Plus at 6. Houston travels to Arizona State, 8 o'clock on ESPN2. And at Big 12 After Dark, it's Colorado at Utah at 10:15 on ESPN. Arizona and UCF have the bye this week. With your Big 12 Minute, I'm Jeff Allen.
Fresh article from you at the 365 Sports newsletter.
Sure is. 365sports.video is where you get that every Wednesday morning in your inbox. So subscribe. This week's article, I give out mid-season-ish awards, some superlatives to the team. So find UCF coverage there. Find every team in the Big 12, 365sports.video.
Big thank you to you for green lighting our Nick Williams going up to the UCF men's basketball game against Duke. Big opportunity for Nick, and it was great that the Suns were on site for this one, Adam.
Yeah, really cool for Nick. Obviously, I was watching the game. I got to see him in the Cameron Crazies, which is just a cool experience, I think, for him. And look, I mean, I know it's an exhibition game. I don't know how many times UCF and Duke are going to face each other, especially in Cameron, where obviously Coach Dawkins made his name and his legendary career starts there in Durham. So really cool opportunity, I think, to get there and celebrate what that looked like. And our guys hung in there for a little bit, Trace. First half, we were feeling good, but things a little bit dicey in the second half there, but really good to see UCF and Duke together. Coach Dawkins celebrated, and great to have Nick Williams part of the whole festivities.
And let's hear a recap now from Nick.
The Johnny Dawkins homecoming game lived up to the hype. Well, for the first half. I'm Nick Williams reporting for the Sons of UCF inside of Cameron Indoor Stadium after hearing from Coach Dawkins say that even though this team lost, he still thinks that they're prepared for Big 12 play.
I'm grateful that they gave me the opportunity to come here and play them. And I thought it was great for my players. I had an opportunity to let every single player that could play get in the game in Cameron. I mean, they'll remember that for the rest of their lives, this moment. You know, of course, we all, as competitors, I would have loved to have another outcome. That's the competitive side of me. But the experience that we were able to gain here, you know, playing a team like this, you know, will carry us a long way as we move into conference play and early in preseason play for us as well. So
the LSU Tigers come into Orlando this Sunday and will give Johnny Dawkins and his team a little taste of SEC play before heading into regular season against Hofstra November 3rd. For the Sons of UCF, I'm Nick Williams.
And great work by Nick there. If it's men's basketball season, it means it's time for Ben Hazel.
Yes.
Welcome back in, Ben, to Sons of UCF Live. Ben, our friend Matt Dolan says, it's nice to know bow tie season is almost here.
Oh, it is here. I got them hung up. They've been staring at me for way too long. I can't wait to pull them out.
How you been, Ben? How are things?
I've been great. How about you guys? You know, I've been missing you. You know, once I got the invite, I tried to quell my excitement via text, but, you know, I had to call everybody and let them know that they still want me back.
Before we get into the game itself, how about that? Johnny Dawkins back at Duke. All of the visuals, all the videos, all of it great this week for Coach Dawkins and the team.
Yeah, and rightfully so. I mean, what Coach Dawkins did at Duke, I think, you know, you don't really feel it as much down here. So I'm really glad that you guys, felt enough to respect the trip and know how special it is for a Coach Dawkins, and who's the leader of our helm right now. And I mean, what he's been able to do at the time that he was been doing it, people don't realize that Duke North Carolina rivalry was as thick as it always is. And their guy was Michael Jordan, and the Duke guy was Johnny Dawkins. That's the type of conversations he's been a part of in his start of his career. So I'm glad the guys got to see it up close and personal. I mean, when you walk through there, that's part of the reason why I even wanted to play in college. Coach Dawkins was an assistant coach at Duke when I was coming up. So going to those games, I mean, he was right. Something that you will never forget. And actually got to play there once in college. Worst loss of my college career, but, great time.
I appreciated Coach Dawkins in the soundbite that Nick just played, saying he wanted to make sure everybody got into that game, a memory that they'll never forget. This was a tight one at the half, Ben. 96-71 the final. I know Coach Dawkins is talking defense with these guys all week long.
Oh, you know that. I mean, defense and rebounding clearly is going to be something that, the guys are going to have to start to get their footing with. But I was happy with, how they approached it. One thing that going to Cameron and starting the way that we did, that said a lot to me, right? Like that's typically where that shock factor a lot of the times gets you, is really at the beginning of the game and then right in the beginning of the second half. So they were able to withstand it. I mean, they were able to fight. Coach Dawkins clearly wasn't trying to show too much. I don't think either coach is. So, I think it was a good test. I think the guys responded correctly. And I know the coaching staff can kind of go back to practice and, be encouraged, like, hey, we got some things we can build on.
Ben, like you and a lot of fans, I've got my roster here trying to remember everybody's name and learn everybody's names for this season. One thing Coach Dawkins said that the roster will show you, though, is he made a concerted effort to try to find some more size, some more length, some more sort of frontline players. What do you make of that philosophy and how that'll play out as you kind of get deeper in the season, especially when you get into the Big 12?
Yeah, I think it's just embracing modern basketball a little bit, right? Like you got a lot more tweeners now. Your wings are a lot more versatile. Shout out to Jordan Burks, of course. But I think that's what he's looking for, just mobile guys. I think that is also the adjustment with having a team like that, is we have guys that are capable of playing the wing and are asked to do a lot this year, but rebounding is going to be a main component for all five guys, which I don't think everybody's used to. Typically, guys are coming from programs with, one or two main guys that carry the rebounding load. So I think we saw yesterday, like, hey, the offensive part is going to be great. Defense, we got to work, but the effort on the glass from everybody on every single shot is, paramount for us.
One of the bigger challenges with the new age of college basketball, Ben, is obviously getting guys aligned together, right? Bringing people together as a team. They're all kind of new. It's interesting on this roster. If I count this correctly, there's three sets of guys who played together at previous stops. Two guys that played together at Mississippi State, two guys that played together in Milwaukee. And I think Devin Cambridge and Jordan Burks both played at Hillcrest Prep together at the same time as well, too. So what does that do as a team when you're kind of bringing in some guys who already have a little bit of familiarity with each other versus introducing 13, 14 new players into your program?
It's extremely helpful, of course, rather than having everybody learn everything from scratch. But I think the thing is everybody's trying to figure out what's going to be asked of them at this spot, right? Like having somebody that kind of knows how you react to things and knows how to kind of get you going or keep you locked in, that's always great. But I think every single person down to the man, is really trying to figure out what is going to be their sweet spot. How do they make this season the best season for themselves? And I think people were just kind of getting adjusted to some of the new roles, right? Like a Jordan Burks. He's like, man, I didn't know I was going to get a green light like this. Like you could tell some of the shots he starts shooting them. He's like, hey, like I like this. So, I think guys are getting just adjusted and figuring out, where they can score, when they're going to be asked to score, things like that.
I'm actually curious, Ben. I was watching the game. Jordan was feeling himself a little bit in that first half, right? Talking to the crowd, flashing some signs. What does Coach Dawkins do to a player when they kind of come back with a little bit of that energy? Is he cool with that kind of stuff, or is he like, hey man, act like you've been here?
He will not say a word about it. He likes that stuff secretly. Right. Okay. So it's not something you'll ever hear him in a press conference talk about. It's something that every coach publicly will be like, hey, tone it down. But if you've noticed, Coach Dawkins, we've had guys do that type of stuff, especially when they're feeling it. And Coach Dawkins is like, hey, make the next one. You know, you just go, keep riding the wave, because he knows how moments get as a player, because he was one of those guys. Once you get it going, you know, guys just kind of get the flowing and having fun. And if that means you're going to make the next 5 shots, dance all you want.
How much of what we saw in this exhibition game gives us an idea of what this team is going to look like when regular season play gets underway?
I don't think it shows you saw much to basically put an identity on it. I think we did see some things that will work to our advantage. One, playing up and down, I think will be helpful for us, getting guys out in space. As far as rebounding, there's going to need to be some adjustments there. So I think it's going to be, you know, it's a learning curve. Everybody's new. So Coach Dawkins is trying to find the right lineups. He's trying to see what works best. I think Stillwell is another example of like a guy that's really just trying to figure out where a guy at his size can be effective in this, at this level, stuff like that. So I think it's just the little nuances, but I think they'll pick it up. I think that was the one thing that I was reassured with, you know, how they started this game, was that we have a mature group. You know, we've had mature groups in the past, but this group seemed to be unfazed, and they seem kind of locked in on, you know, really the game at hand.
What about basketball IQ? Can you pick up on that watching them play?
I didn't get selfish vibes from how they were playing. I got, you know, the shot clock's winding down, I got to make a play type situations. But I did get the, you know, kind of personal, hey, he shot those 3, I'm going to shoot this one type of vibe just yet. But that is the number one question with pretty much every team, you know, exhibition games and games early on. The number one challenge is kind of overcoming when things go wrong. And that's typically when those things start to show up. But as of now, I mean, they look like a cohesive group. They look pretty together. They were sharing the ball. They were trying. So they were giving a good effort. I was encouraged.
At Media Day, Coach Dawkins seemed to lament that in this new era of 9 months with a guy, that you don't have that opportunity to develop players. You know, he was asked that in conjunction with no Darius Johnson on this roster this season. And you may not see a 4-year guy again in a night uniform anytime soon. But he talked about needing to simplify things because you only have so much time with these guys.
Yeah. And that's really the summer. When I talked to Coach Dawkins, especially, that was one thing that was really new for me was, you know, at UCF, you do summer, then you do fall, then you go straight into the season. So it's pretty much a year-round thing. And really how Coach Dawkins utilized the summer. When we had guys that were staying, it was a lot more individual work, right? Like he was really getting into your skill development directly in that 1 hour that you get over the summer. But now with guys being there for such short a period of time, everything is team. Like you even have to rehearse practice before practice actually comes, because you don't have any leaders that know like what you're asking for, some of the acronyms, short terms that you use. So he has to spend a lot of time thinking about that, trying to piece together that. And with this roster, you have a completely new turnover. So he doesn't really even have any players that he can lean on to kind of make sure messaging stays the same and stuff like that.
Ben, is there a name on this roster? I know we already talked a little bit about Jordan Burks. Is there another name in this roster that you're intrigued with? 2 names that stick out to me. We didn't see him play on Tuesday. Carmelo Pacheco, who was a sniper from 3, and John Bull, 7'2", that kind of athleticism, right? Like I just wonder what his role will be. Is there any name that sticks out to you in this roster? You're curious to kind of see how they fit in.
The one I'm waiting for is Riley Kugel. So he's the guy that we're extremely familiar with. He went to Dr. Phillips. You know, he was coached by Ben Witherspoon, who was on staff for a little while, went to Florida, played open gym at our gym, things like that. He's extremely athletic and he's extremely talented. His number one issue has kind of been his just motor. So I think with UCF giving him that opportunity, right? Like when you see the game, you see a Jordan and a Riley Kugel look at these situations like, hey, they kind of need me to get going and kind of make things happen. And those are 2 guys that, you know, kind of established themselves even in the exhibition game as guys that can do that. And he's a guy that I've seen that can thrive in that. So if he can put that motor to his game, I think he's a guy that, you know, I think the UCF faithful will fall in love with over time.
A lot of news in basketball today, Ben. I want to ask you about that, but 2 other words has a question. What are your thoughts on G League and European guys coming back to try to play college ball. We heard a little of that today, right? A couple of players are kind of kicking that around. What are your thoughts on G League back to college?
Well, my first thought was like kind of a duh. You know what I mean? Like just economically, right? Like, hey, I'm not going to get paid as much and I have to live in a middle of nowhere place and people don't like me or love me like they do if I went to a university, right? So good for those guys taking advantage of the opportunity per se. But I do think there eventually has to be some guardrails around this stuff, unless they're just going to fully adopt. I mean, they are pretty much a professional. We are a professional league the way college sports is currently set up. But I think they've gone a little too far because they are still tied to universities. So you can't have a completely free side where you have, kind of guys running crazy. But I guess you technically could, but my preference would be some just kind of guardrails around this. I don't necessarily mind it transferring down, I guess you could say, from a Euro to a G League player, because I don't think it will happen as often as people might think. Because if you're transferring to college as a G League or a Euro player, it is not going to help your professional outlook in any way, fashion, or form. So, if you're just giving it up and saying, I'm probably retire after your college career, then most definitely. But like the G League kid, he's only 1 or 2 years out, so I don't think this will be the end of the road for him. But I do know the people that are in the G League aren't like, oh my God, they really lost a huge player and he's going to go to college now. So we haven't had it happen yet, but there needs to be some guardrails like many other things in college sports.
Ben, before we let you out of here, something people might not know about you. You are involved in college football award season. I don't know how many people know this. Can you tell us how Ben Hazel is connected to college football award season?
So this is my first season as the executive director officially of the John Mackey Award, given to the best tight end in college football every year.
Because when I look at you, that's exactly what comes to mind.
Hey! Back in the day, I used to get out there and mix it up. It was a tough decision for me to pick basketball over football. It was that my playing style didn't match my size. I hit too many people, and they started to hurt me back. So it was, I probably should just give up basketball instead of trying to put on another 50 pounds. But so I'm running the award now, or helping run the award, not fully running it myself, but helping run the award. It's been a lot of fun so far. I'm not a voting member just yet. Really just kind of taking on all the kind of operation stuff, some of the marketing, some of the partnership stuff. So it's been a fun, first few months.
Tell us about your connection to John Mackey. People probably don't know that, but what's your connection to John Mackey?
John Mackey's my grandfather on my mom's side. So, John Mackey, Hall of Fame tight end from the Baltimore Colts, went to Syracuse. So yeah, that was where, people were actually a little confused that I picked basketball, but I blame my dad.
LSU comes to town Sunday at noon, second exhibition game for the Knights. What's something you're looking for? Those two mixed it up last year, different rosters, but it was a thriller last year. What are you looking for from the Knights to show some improvement since the Duke game?
I think this game will be more telling than the Duke game, right? So we're going to see a little bit of different lineups. I think we should see guys look a little more comfortable. Of course, this being their first kind of home game in the middle of the day. But I think I want to see that defensive intensity pick up. I want to see guys digging a little more active off the ball. I think that's one thing that plagued us was, luckily we only played Cameron Boozer once in an exhibition because I don't think, he's a pro, but as far as seeing a guy like that, I don't think we will ever again, especially in our conference, just a guy that was just a bully on the glass and in the paint. But he was able to play by himself in kind of big spaces. You're going to need to see guys digging. We're going to need to see guys in tighter gaps. That's the number one adjustment that I would want to see. And just us giving a little more effort on the glass. Those two areas, I would call it a win if we're able to do that.
You look good in the polo shirt, but I've got to agree with Matt Dolan. Bow tie Ben, though, that's the look we want to see more of this coming season. Ben Hazel, always great talking with you. Thanks for being with us.
Always great having me, fellas. Talking to you guys. Can't wait to do it again. Hopefully, we have a good season this year. Go Knights.
All right,
Thanks,
charge on, Ben. Thank you. Good of you to bring up that Mackey Award. I'd kind of forgotten about that since I first learned of it from Ben.
Yeah, I think look, Ben's such a good dude. Like, I think he's proud of the work he's doing there too. And I want to make sure people recognize that, he's involved in that. And I know he's been tweeting some stuff out, trying to get into the position. I know he's trying to get comfortable there. I wish we had a UCF tight end I could promote for him. Unfortunately, this year, maybe next year we'll have somebody out there too. But Ben's a very versatile dude, and I'm glad he's a part of our team here. Glad we have a chance to get to know him and talk to him, hopefully every week, about some college basketball.
Well, in addition to Nick's coverage from the Duke game, plenty of content on Sons of UCF YouTube, including the Pegasus podcast and Around the Kingdom with Eric Lopez and myself.
I did enjoy watching the sack tally tick up over the course of the day after the game, bit by bit. I did think that was funny with Kenny Martin calling them out. Listen, sometimes with the stats, you got to figure stuff out. For example, pretty disappointed in Day Farmer, who was out with an injury, but somehow managed to commit a penalty, according to the official stats that have now been logged for history. Pretty sure that was probably Isaiah Nixon and not Day Farmer, but yeah.
Dookie, Lo, big deal, little deal, or no deal?
Evidently, it's a big deal. Everybody's asking me about where to find this game. Trey apparently outed me on live, saying, Eric Edwards saying, "Hey, Trey says you know where to get the game. How do I do it?" Like, what? Like, huh?
You do, though. You sent me the instructions on how to find
simple.
Elo's so over the top. I outed him on where he could find the game. There's just a lot of things.
We also talk sports on those shows too, by the way, just FYI.
What's nice about Thursdays, women's soccer plays a lot of times head-to-head with Sons of UCF Live, which allows us to go to Jan Perez now at the UCF Soccer Complex. Waning minutes in this one, Jan. Knights jumped out to a halftime lead. They're trying to hang on, aren't they?
Yeah, the game has been exciting with under 10 minutes left. The game has just been electric since the beginning. Both teams were shooting the shot early. Genesis for UCF had 3 saves in the first half. Even with that being said, Hannah Harmonica crossed it into Jada Silvestre, scoring the first goal for the game, opening it up for the Knights. Second half was still the Knights kind of being as aggressive as possible. Regina Reed got freed from the defense on a through ball, just slammed it at the back of the net. Keeper couldn't do anything to stop it. And Baylor answered right back. With only 10 minutes left, the game is still on the line.
Some great saves, though, by the Knights keeper in this one, Jan.
Insane saves. As I said, first half, 3 saves. Jada Silvestre, including her goal, has cleared the ball every time on defense, has not let these attackers breathe, really.
Jan Perez will have post-game coverage for us out there now at the UCF Soccer Complex. Waning minutes of this one. Knights up 2-1 over Baylor. Thanks, Jan.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jan.
When you're covering soccer, you end up with some names, don't you? You do. You do end up with some names.
No, listen, he did a good job. I like what he did, though. We're just going first names. Genesis is safe. That's the only sport you can maybe go first names and get away with it. So I appreciate Jan throwing that in there.
It's a big RPI game. Baylor's highly ranked in the RPI, so this would be a solid win for the Knights. They have an unusual start time, 1 o'clock Monday, BYU at the soccer complex. So not a lot of Monday at 1 o'clock games. It'd be a hot one opportunity there for the Knights. Let's go around the kingdom and look at some other sports. Volleyball gets a 3-2 win over Houston. They host Texas Tech Saturday. Knights are 3-5 in the Big 12. Still hanging around there, RPI in the 50s. Still have some work to do. Men's soccer, what's a nice accomplishment in soccer is the hat trick. And Lillian Ricole with a hat trick in the Knights 3-2 win over James Madison. Knights on a bit of a roll, undefeated streak now in the Sun Belt. They're hanging around in the 50s too. It's been a pretty good fall for men's, women's soccer, and volleyball. So we'll update the women's soccer score. Waning moments of that one. Knights still up 2-1. All right, before we go to the mailbag, Adam, what is a Ghost's favorite kind of drink?
Dr. Pepper.
Kool-Aid. Mailbag time.
Kool-Aid.
So it's a mailbag. So what?
So what? Do you know whose mailbag that is?
It's that time again. Time to open the Brian W. Peterson Sons of UCF mailbag.
It means a lot. Sons of UCF, man, listen, they gave me a great campaign. Sons of UCF, baby.
Hi, fellas. You're going back to that thing where you're going to build out that open. It's going to be a minute long.
Might as well.
Well, some self-serving clips. Of course, that Alex Haynes and some scenes from the Hall of Fame that was well done by Knights on Friday out at the Celeste Hotel. Nice class, and looking forward to who gets inducted next.
Yeah, hats off to Carlos McCants and his team who do a fantastic job going through the ballots, getting everyone on the ballots, getting the voting process, and then putting on the event. It's just, we've been doing this long enough now, Trace, where like we've been involved with know some of these people, which is just kind of weird and fun and strange at the same time. But great group of individuals in this Hall of Fame class. Next year is going to be interesting. I can't wait to see what happens with next year's class. But good to play a small role in that. Congrats to Alex, Dexter, Mike Sims-Walker, and everybody else who got into the Hall of Fame in 2025.
All of those comments unprompted by me. I was just there asking questions. Dexter Lyons, though, was there a bigger person connecting with the fans and the students than Dexter?
He's still got that energy, man. Like he's still got that, like, life of the party. Everybody come over. Like you can just tell he's still got that about him, even when he stepped up to the podium there and met you all, and just his energy, his excitement. It hasn't changed in the 20 plus years since he wore UCF's colors and took UCF to an NCAA championship appearance.
All right, first question. Emptiness for Michael, who was out there along with our Andrew Gregg covering fall ball for UCF baseball, getting to know the new Knights during the competition out there at John Giuliano Park. Michael's comment here: provide a controversial idea to try and stem the influx of transfer portal entries over the last few years. He suggests players need at least 6 games played at their current school, starts not required, or 2 years to enter the transfer portal. Exceptions, of course, can be made for grad transfers. You got a controversy, you got a hot take?
I tried this one once before. I rolled this out in the old Sons of UCF podcast back in the day. I think when you are coming out of high school, you get to pick 3 schools: the school you're going to go to and 2 backup schools. Mm-hmm. You can only transfer to those other 2 schools without any penalty. So you come, hey, I'm going to go to UCF, and you name your 2 other schools. All the other 2 schools, you get a free one-time transfer. Every other school, if you go outside of that, you have to sit a year. So I think you pick 3 at the beginning, you get 1, and you get 2 gimmies. You get 2 do-overs if you need it.
What if there's a lot there. What if you change your major and one of those backup schools isn't the best?
I'm not here to play school, Trey. I'm not here to play school, Trey.
Oh, we're not playing school. What if the coach is fired or leaves?
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. That's why you pick 2 other schools. You pick 2 other schools. You go, okay, fine. I may lose my coach here, but if that happens, I'd be okay going to this school and that school, right? Closer to home, a system I like, my favorite team. My uncle went here. You get 2 gimmies. You get 2 do-overs if you don't get the first one right.
By the way, talking about teams, what'd you make of the schedule change? UMass pushed out, Georgia State moved up. My phone was lit up by Eric Lopez, who hates the scheduling of these opponents. And that schedule next year, they're raising the ticket prices on some. There's not a marquee game. I mean, Big 12 play, yes, but non-con play, not a big marquee game.
My favorite thing about Georgia State is they play their home games in the old Atlanta Braves baseball stadium.
You ever go there?
Now reconfigured. I've been to the old baseball stadium, not been to the football stadium.
Yeah.
The football stadium also featured as the stadium in the Hulu series Chad Powers, which is also available now as well, too. So a lot of fun facts about Georgia State that tells you nothing about if they're good at football.
Are you watching that show?
I've seen a few so far. Yeah, it's what you'd expect.
Yeah. UCF Knights win. We're also excited. We were also excited when Jalen Hayward committed to UCF, and now he's in the portal. No big surprise, right? And that's only been the first one, right? There's going to be more roster turnover. But who's the commit you were most excited for that just never really panned out? His was 2012 Chester Brown. Do you remember him? Georgia flip.
I sure don't. I wrote 2 down here. One, a recruit in the first Scott Frost regime, running back Cordarian Richardson.
Yeah, that's mine.
Who was a 4-star, and UCF obviously after 2016, we lost some running backs. She thought he was going to be great. Didn't end up panning out at UCF. On a transfer, do you all remember Jordan Johnson, the 5-star wide receiver that transferred into UCF from Notre Dame. That
Notre
we're
Dame.
getting a 5-star. I can't believe it. I think he caught one pass in his UCF career. I don't even know where he's at.
That's
today.
when this was a Notre Dame to UCF pipeline.
That was it. Brandon Wimbush, Parker Boudreaux, and Jordan John. We were going to back to the chip, Trace, and I don't know what happened to Jordan Johnson.
At Golden Knight _2. What's your take on Frost play calling so far this season? I know the bar is very low coming from, Golden Knight refers to him as Bozo Gus. Those are not my words. That's
sure? I didn't see that on here.
Starting to wonder if Frost is making good play calls, especially going on 4th down when you actually have a capable kicker now. I think he's done a pretty good job. I didn't like the 4th and 1 at the 39 that gave West Virginia short field. Put him into the game a little bit. I mean, it never felt like a close game, but put a little life into him right before the half. I didn't care for it. But I'd say maybe B on the season. I mean, he's doing the best he can with what he's got.
What's funny is I don't think he liked the 4th down calls, and he made him. He referenced like, I've got an analytics guy who told me this is what we do. Like, I don't know that he liked going for it on 4th down there too. So I think sometimes you're going to win those, sometimes you're going to lose those. I thought it was interesting to go back to the interview I did with JB Long. For those who aren't familiar, JB, the radio voice of the Los Angeles Rams. Obviously, Scott Frost spent a little over a year as part of the Rams ecosystem out there. And I asked JB, hey, do you see any Rams influence in this UCF offense? And he was like, not really. I really don't see that. He said it didn't strike me as I was watching the game Saturday that I saw a lot of Rams influence. And he went on to say, essentially, it's not, Frost wasn't necessarily around that part of the install maybe as much as you would think he was. So, perhaps he did see some things and learn some things, but JB, who watches the Rams every Sunday and probably more than that as part of his job, did not see UCF play on Saturday and immediately light bulb and say, I see a Rams influence. So where the system's coming from, I think Frost is dealing with the parts he has and maybe can't go UCF hyper fast like he used to and is trying to find ways to make the team successful based on the parts and pieces he has in front of him today.
You may have covered this in the interview, which, again, you can find on Sons YouTube, wherever you get your audio feed. I've not yet listened. Did he get into how he went from Orlando? He went to London? Did he do that overnight?
He did. So here's his exact travel. Baltimore, where the Rams played the week prior. Baltimore to Southern California, back home where this family is at. Left Southern California on a red eye Thursday night. Got into Orlando Friday morning, did meetings, pre-production, so on and so forth. Game 1:00 kick, 4:00 game ends. Thanks everybody for tuning in. See you all later. JB Long got into a car, got into a red eye, made it to London, where he was in on the radio call for the Rams and the Jaguars. He said he was in London for a little less than 12 hours and then back on a bird, back across the states, back in Southern California when he and I talked on Wednesday. So Maryland, California, Florida, London, California were JB Long's last 14, 16 days of travel.
And he may have nodded off on the flight, but he still has work to do. He has to prep for both of these games. So I'm sure he was busy on the flight as well.
He also hosts the Sean McVay podcast or whatever. I guess he was like a radio show, so he had to prepare for that too. So, and listen, he was knowledgeable about the UCF game, and he's calling Kansas State, Kansas this weekend, and talked kind of knowledgeably about what he learned there, referenced watching the tape from UCF Kansas State as part of his lead up there too. So for those who, there may be some people, Trace, who just walk into the booth unprepared and talk, and I don't think that's probably the case, but you can tell there's people who prepare more than others, and JB Long is definitely on that side of he wants to be as prepared as possible.
Well, that's a professional right there. At 2 letters, 2 words, Robert, should Coach Frost look more to the future and raise Davi on the depth chart moving forward? I don't know. Mop-up duty against West Virginia is not winning at Texas Tech.
It's an interesting question, though, Trey. Like, mop-up duty time, like, yeah, sure, fine. You want a wildcat quarterback. You want just a wrinkle. Like, I think Davi could service in that role if that's the case. But if something happens to Taven Jackson, now we know that Cam Fancher, I think they keep saying cracked ribs. I don't know if cracked and broken are different.
Did I say broken? It was cracked.
You may have said broken.
I may have used the word broken.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a difference. I feel like it's the same. I don't really know the difference between the two. Anyway, doesn't sound good, right? Ja'Cory Brown obviously was not on the injury report, so one has to assume he was the emergency quarterback on Saturday. So what happens if Taven Jackson has his helmet come off and has to come out for a play? Who's trotting out there? That's an interesting question. But if you want to see what Davi has, he's got 4 years left. He took the red shirt at Virginia Tech, so I wouldn't be opposed to us understanding if this is a person that we feel like can be in the quarterback mix for the Knights going forward.
Well, let's continue with that theme there at the night UCF. How we like in Belfort? Anyone feel some McKenzie-esque energy in his game? And UCF guy 1203 on Blue Sky. To go along with that, let's assume Belfort and Jackson stay. Then our top quarterback prospect signs. Is that a pretty good quarterback room for 2026? So I guess you got to find out a little bit more about Davi. And Davi's got to feel like he's got a chance to do something, right? That's what we were talking about in the recruiting. You can't keep that many guys on the bench. They all want to play. They all want to do something.
Can we just? I like Davi a lot. He could probably beat
What's
me
Dolly
up with one hand.
What's Dolly the final word on Davi?
He could probably beat me up with one hand tied behind his back. But let's pump the brakes a little on the Mackenzie Milton stuff. Like that's vaulted territory. Like that's you got to get yourself up there. I think we're doing the thing because he wears the number 10, as Matt Dolan mentions, and we think that maybe that's him. He definitely looked impressive at some points in time during the game. I do think it's worth trying to see what you have in Davi Belfort. You have 4 years left of his eligibility. Is he a part of this future going forward? Cam Fancher, Jakari Brown, nice enough individuals, they're out of eligibility. So their future is not going to be here with UCF. At some point, does Scott Frost say, hey, like I want to see maybe, just maybe what I have here. And yes, it looked Milton-esque, but I wouldn't say that he's maybe the next version of McKenzie.
It's a little early for that. That's Scott Leinart. Do you think we're making a bowl game this year? Right? It comes down to Houston, Oklahoma State, Baylor, right? Got to win 2 out of 3. Feel good about Oklahoma State. Got to split Houston, Baylor. Do you believe in space game magic? Do you think Houston is overrated? They are bowl eligible now. They have 6 wins. I think there's a chance to steal a win on the road at Baylor, but they've not shown in Big 12 play that they can really consistently win on the road, do much of anything on the road. So I think it'll be an interesting game. They have a chance to steal one at Baylor. Remember, they've got the bye week, so they will have prepared while Baylor's at Cincinnati.
Yeah, let's just say yes, because it's more fun that way, right? Like I don't want to be that guy that's doing the thing that's going to get hot taked. But look at Houston's record so far and who they've beaten. They haven't exactly played.
Hey, they beat Oregon State.
27-24. Again, they probably should have lost, by the way. So let's look at that record a little bit, and just before we say, hey, I know they're 6-1, and you have to applaud people who win. And I was the guy 38 minutes ago telling you, if you win, don't apologize for it. But let's slow down a little bit on Houston there. I think that one could be one, obviously Oklahoma State. And I'd love to get a road win. It's been a while since that TCU game in 24 straight, since we've won a Big 12 road game. I'd love another one right now as well, too. So let's just say yes, because it's more fun that way.
Leo Sportif. Leo, along those same lines.
Hello,
saying assume a loss at Baylor. Is there more pressure on the Knights against Houston and Oklahoma State? Yeah, because you don't like your chances at Texas Tech and BYU.
Yeah, I want to listen. I think the other thing to mention here is I know a lot of people are like, all right, 6 wins, fine. We get to the Pollen Weed Eater Bowl, like big deal, right? We're gonna go to the
Pollen. Is that
the Poinsettia Bowl, right? Yeah, I don't know that it's about going to the bowl game as much as it's about
progress,
sort of setting that progress going forward, taking a team that was 4-8, that was essentially dismantled, and charting the territory of saying our direction is pointing up. So we're making strides, and you need to kind of put a goal out there for year one to say, what do we want to accomplish? If the 6-win mark gets you to a bowl game, then so be it. But I think it's just also a good sort of litmus test to say, this is where I want to see the trajectory of the team. Let's get to that level already. And sure, fine. I don't think any of us are excited about going to play in the Wasabi Bowl, but if that's the case, then that's the case. But at least the high watermark is there that you say, hey, you see the improvement from year 1 to year 2.
And that is the mailbag. Jan has messaged me. UCF women's soccer knocks off Baylor. That's number 4 RPI Baylor. That's a 2-1 final score. That's a big boost to the Knights RPI. So thanks, Jan, for that, and more coverage from him post game.
What does RPI stand for?
We got to do a little research on that. Elo. You're watching.
What does RPI stand for? My watch is going off. A huge win, as Elo says. Okay, that doesn't help me very much, Elo.
All right, it is that time to play What's in the Box. It's your turn.
I'm empty. No, I'm out. We're empty here. Do you got one?
I don't have one. I didn't come prepared. It was you. I didn't. The questions are in
Okay.
another room in a box. I don't have the questions.
Well, the box hopefully says Alumni Hall on it, Trace, where
It
you
does
can
say
go and
Alumni Hall.
get some great gear. 4100 North Alfaya Trail or alumnihall.com. Search for UCF, Trace. I'm good. I've got a question for you here.
Oh, I'm not going to like it if you're asking it off the top. Just is this going to be about ducks and how many ducks and beating up a horse or something? You ask some kind of question you ask.
I'm offended, A, but B, settle this for me and my family. We were heading out to a restaurant recently.
Yeah.
I famously had a challenge where I had seafood in a place that did not have water next to it, and I suffered daily for that. So we have a joke now as a family around, hey, keep away from seafood. And my daughter says, hey, on the menu, Dad, they have alligator bites. Is alligator bites seafood, Trace?
Yes. What would it be if it wasn't? Yes.
Do alligators live in the sea? Like, is it just water food then at that point? I mean, alligators live in lakes.
What did your daughter think it was seafood? Because I agree with her.
Well, I think she was saying that, assuming it was seafood.
Yeah, I think it's seafood.
I'm not sure if it's seafood. And so also the question, would you ever, it's roadkill is a great question. Would you ever have alligator? Devin, not a fan of this particular program. I get you, Devin. Runs punted in, not the answer there. Would you ever have alligator?
I have an update from Eric Lopez. Ratings percentage index. I wanted to give Elo an opportunity I didn't want to answer all the questions.
The best
I have had alligator.
Shit, that is. What does it taste like? Chicken?
Chicken. Yeah.
What's the most exotic food you've had that, like, are you snails or like?
I've had snails, escargot.
Okay.
I've had frog legs.
Cow brains.
No. Rocky Mountain oysters. Had those.
What's in that again? For those who don't know, I know.
It's like chicken. They used to sell them at the Rockies games in Denver. They were at a stand in the outfield.
I've had buffalo. I've had bison burgers.
Oh yeah, I've had that. Yeah, I've had that.
Dolly has questions on frog legs. Say more. What do you mean frog? Where? How?
I don't know. I mean, once it's fried, I'll eat anything fried, basically. I don't know.
I don't know. I believe Mario. I don't know what it means. I ate termites in Belize.
I believe him.
Rattlesnake for Matt Dolan.
No, I've not had rattlesnake. I had cactus soup one time in Arizona. A little bitter.
I've had them. They're solid. I don't know what that means, Dolly, but I trust you there. A lot of weird food there tonight. So alligator, I'm getting a mixed message here. Some saying seafood, some saying roadkill. Mario said very minty, but pretty
very minty. That was the termites in Belize.
Well, one can only imagine.
It was an entertaining show. I'm going to miss you next week while I'm on PTO, but we'll have capable, competent fill-ins.
We got some stuff planned here, Trace. I mean, this is this quintessential, like, the boss is away, the kids can play kind of thing.
You're the boss. You're the boss.
Nick and I have been working some stuff out here. There's some ideas.
That's how, you know what that sounds like? Don't spend too much time on the rundown, Trace. We're tearing it up.
No, I think we'll do rundown. There's a couple of guests that you typically don't necessarily want that maybe this is the week we try that.
Who do I not want to give?
Well, I mean, there's
you have a banned list of guests that you want.
I do have a banned list. No, Sons Plus. I will tell you all my banned list of guests that are no longer welcome on the show and or never appeared. But yeah, we have a couple of guests that, like, maybe don't fit in the normal rundown of a show that we think could do well. So, I don't want to give away too much. I don't want to give too much.
All right, before we go, what do mummies listen to on Halloween?
Mummies listen to rap
music.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.
Happy Halloween when you get to yours, everyone. For Adam Eaton, I'm Trace Trelko. Go Knights.
George on.
Hey, thanks for watching Sons of UCF.
He didn't say his name.
Personality. He really does.
He didn't say his name. That's John Bull, if you don't know who that
is. It's up the room, though. That kid is.
He does. Yeah. His interview. I mean, we're going to post those soon. Whenever I get to those. Yeah. What a personality in that kid.
Yeah, a lot of personality, a lot of hair.